The woman's voice was sharp, echoing through the store as she jabbed a finger toward the teenage girl, making a scene. "I'm telling you, she doesn't belong here," she hissed at the manager. The other customers froze, their eyes darting between the woman and the girl, unsure of what to do. But the girl didn't flinch. She stood tall, her gaze locked on the woman who had just humiliated her in front of everyone. Little did that woman know, the truth she was about to discover would shatter her smug confidence in an instant. Mia Roberts, a confident 16-year-old with a love for fashion and a strong sense of self, had no idea what awaited her that afternoon. She had simply walked into a boutique to find a dress for a special event, completely unaware of the storm brewing around her. Her father, Daniel Roberts, was a well-respected entrepreneur who owned several high-end stores across the city. Known for his generosity and vision, Daniel had built his empire from the ground up. But today, he was away on business, leaving Mia to enjoy what she thought would be a quiet shopping experience. Mia had never visited the boutique alone before. It was a proud moment, a chance to shop for herself and feel independent. She had always admired the elegant racks of designer clothing, and now, finally, she had the opportunity to browse them freely. As she moved through the store, excitement bubbled inside her. The upcoming charity gala was important, and she wanted to look her best. She spotted a stunning dress and eagerly picked it up, but when she saw it wasn't her size, she set it back down. While she admired its intricate details, someone else in the store wasn't admiring Mia at all. That someone was Mrs. Olivia Carter, a regular customer with an air of entitlement. The moment Olivia noticed Mia, her eyes narrowed, her expression soured. To her, Mia didn't belong in the boutique, and she was determined to make that clear. Olivia's judgment didn't stop at quiet disdain. She followed Mia through the store, her sharp gaze tracking the teenager's every move. When Mia stepped into the fitting room with a dress, Olivia muttered under her breath, loud enough for others to hear, "I bet she's not even here to buy anything." Unaware of Olivia's growing hostility, Mia continued shopping, enjoying the moment. But Olivia wasn't about to let things slide. In her mind, Mia was an intruder, someone who didn't deserve to share the same space as her. And Olivia was about to take matters into her own hands. What would you do if someone judged you for simply existing in a space where you had every right to be? Click the subscribe button if you believe no one should be judged unfairly based on their appearance. Only those who judge others wrongly won't subscribe. Mia continued browsing and soon found another dress, perfect for the charity gala her father was hosting. She picked it up with a smile and headed toward the fitting room, completely unaware that her moment of joy was about to be overshadowed by someone else's prejudice. Across the room, Olivia Carter watched Mia intently. Her lips curled in disdain. "What's she doing here? They're really letting anyone in these days," she muttered, loud enough for nearby customers to hear. Her sharp gaze followed Mia's every move, suspicion clouding her judgment. To her surprise, Mia had almost succeeded. She stepped out of the fitting room, and the dress fit her perfectly. She admired herself in the mirror, her excitement growing as she imagined wearing it to the gala. But her peaceful moment was quickly interrupted. Olivia, with a forced smile, approached her. "That's a beautiful dress," Olivia said, her tone dripping with condescension. Mia, ever polite, replied, "Thank you. I think it's perfect for my dad's event." But Olivia wasn't there to compliment her. "Are you sure you're in the right store?" Olivia asked, her fake smile disappearing. Mia frowned, confused by the question. "I'm exactly where I need to be," she replied, turning and walking out with a steady expression. "I'm going back to college," she added, her voice calm but firm. Olivia scoffed, her eyes narrowing. "This store isn't exactly budget-friendly," she said, her words cutting. "Maybe you should try somewhere more affordable." Mia's stomach tightened. She had encountered rudeness before, but this felt different, more targeted, more cruel. Still, she refused to back down. "I'll let my purchases speak for themselves," Mia said firmly, refusing to be intimidated. Other customers began to notice the exchange, their whispers filling the boutique. Mia, trying to keep her composure, glanced around and noticed the store manager watching from a distance. She took a deep breath and said, "If you have an issue, maybe you should take it up with someone in charge." Olivia smirked. "Oh, don't worry, I will," she said, turning toward the manager. And that's when things escalated. Olivia wasn't satisfied with just a few words. She flagged down the store manager, a woman who had only worked there for a few months and didn't recognize Mia. "Excuse me," Olivia said, her voice loud and sharp. "I've been watching that girl, and I'm pretty sure she slipped something into her bag." The manager, visibly uncomfortable, approached cautiously. "What seems to be the issue, Mrs. Carter?" she asked. "The issue," Olivia snapped, pointing at Mia, "is that she's been acting suspiciously. She's obviously not here to buy anything. You need to check her bag." Mia's heart sank as the accusation hit her. The manager glanced at Mia, then at Olivia, unsure of how to proceed. "I haven't done anything wrong," Mia said calmly, her voice steady despite the growing tension. But Olivia wasn't interested in her denial. "Of course you'd say that," Olivia sneered. "Why don't you just show us what's in your bag?" Stunned by the accusation, Mia looked at the manager and replied, "I haven't done anything wrong, but if it'll stop this nonsense, go ahead." She handed her bag over without hesitation, her heart pounding with humiliation as the small crowd of customers looked on. The manager opened Mia's bag, carefully checking its contents. After a moment, she looked up and shook her head. "There's nothing here," she said quietly, her tone apologetic. But Olivia refused to let it go. "Check again," she demanded. "She must have hidden it somewhere else." Mia's patience was wearing thin. She took a step forward, her voice calm but firm. "I think we're done here," she said, taking her bag back. "Unless you have actual proof, I suggest you stop harassing me." But Olivia wasn't finished. "If you have nothing to hide," Olivia said, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear, "then why are you being so defensive?" Mia took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she clenched them at her sides. "Defensive," she repeated. "You accused me of stealing without a shred of evidence. That's not defensiveness, that's self-respect." The manager, desperate to defuse the situation, spoke up. "Perhaps we should all just take a step back and calm down." But Olivia wasn't calming down. She pointed a finger at Mia and said, "Girls like her don't belong in stores like this. They come in, make a scene, and leave with things that don't belong to them." Mia's jaw tightened, her resolve hardening with every word Olivia spoke. "You're not just wrong," she said, her voice cutting through the crowd. "You're showing everyone exactly who you are, and it's not a good look." "We don't need troublemakers like her ruining this place," Olivia said loudly, turning to the manager. "Just ask her to leave." The manager hesitated, glancing between Olivia and Mia, unsure of how to handle the situation. "I think it's best if you leave," the manager said softly, her words directed at Mia. "We don't want any more disruptions." Mia's jaw tightened as the manager's words sank in. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You're asking me to leave," she said slowly, her voice filled with disbelief. "Even though I've done nothing wrong?"
Olivia smirked, folding her arms.
"Exactly.
"You're just proving my point."
Mia turned to Olivia, her gaze unwavering. "You're only doing this because of the color of my skin," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "You should be ashamed of yourself." After a brief pause, Olivia responded quickly, her voice catching off guard. "I'm just protecting the store's reputation." But the damage was done. The other customers began whispering, their eyes filled with judgment, not for Mia, but for Olivia. "Have you clicked on the subscribe button yet? Subscribe now to show your support of justice for Mia in this story." Refusing to let Olivia or the manager intimidate her, Mia pulled out her phone and dialed quickly, raising it to her ear. "Dad," she said calmly, her voice steady despite the chaos around her, "I need you to come to the boutique." There's a situation here. Some things are missing. Olivia rolled her eyes. What she didn't know was that Mia's call would bring the truth crashing down in a way no one could have predicted. How petulant of you, Olivia sneered, unaware that the truth would reveal a stunning twist that left everyone speechless. If you believe in standing up for justice, hit that subscribe button now. Let's make sure stories like Mia's inspire real change. The room fell into an uneasy silence as Mia ended the call, slipping her phone back into her pocket. Olivia, ever confident in her assumptions, scoffed loudly, turning to another customer nearby. Probably calling her boyfriend to come bail her out, she whispered, her voice dripping with sarcasm. The customer looked away, clearly uncomfortable with Olivia's behavior. But Olivia, emboldened by her audience, continued. This is why stores like this need stricter policies. We can't just let anyone walk in. Mia didn't react. She stood her ground, her head held high, as the store manager fidgeted nervously nearby. The growing tension in the room was palpable, with every pair of eyes on Mia, waiting to see what would happen next. Then, the unmistakable roar of an engine interrupted the scene. Outside, a sleek black SUV rolled to a halt at the curb. Its tinted windows gleamed under the afternoon sun, exuding an air of power and authority. A towering figure stepped out first, a bodyguard in a sharp suit, an earpiece in his ear. His gaze scanned the boutique like a hawk, assessing the surroundings. The tension in the room shifted immediately. Moments later, another figure emerged from the vehicle, Andrew Roberts. His tailored suit hugged his tall, broad frame, and his polished shoes clicked with purpose against the pavement. With a presence that could command a boardroom or silence a crowd, he walked toward the boutique with calm, deliberate strides. His face was unreadable, but undeniably focused. The glass doors swung open with a soft chime, and the bodyguard entered first, his imposing frame and no-nonsense expression making heads turn. Olivia's whispering stopped mid-sentence as Andrew followed, his presence impossible to ignore. The staff recognized him instantly, their faces lighting up with a mix of relief and respect.
Whispers rippelt trug the boutique.
It's Mr. Roberts. The manager, visibly flustered, hurried over, her voice trembling slightly. Mr. Roberts, she said, her tone both reverent and nervous. We weren't expecting you today. Olivia's face twisted in confusion as she watched the scene unfold. Oh, another parent is here. That's better, she muttered to herself. But before she could say anything more, Daniel Reynolds strode past the manager and straight to Mia. His expression was calm but serious, and he didn't need to raise his voice to make an impact. The sheer force of his confidence and authority filled the room. His sharp eyes scanned the boutique, taking in the hushed crowd, the flustered manager, and most importantly, his daughter standing at the center of it all. Andrew paused at the entrance, surveying the scene with a calm but serious expression. His sharp eyes took in the scattered customers, the fidgeting manager, and most importantly, his daughter standing at the center of it all. Without hesitation, he strode toward Mia, his footsteps measured but purposeful. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with authority. Olivia's expression faltered for just a moment, but she quickly recovered, assuming Andrew was just another CEO who would support her because of how much she spends in the shop. "Oh good," she said, stepping forward. "I'm glad someone's here to deal with this mess. This girl has been causing trouble, and I caught her acting suspiciously. She even tried to steal something." Andrew's expression didn't change as he listened to Olivia's accusations. He turned to the manager, raising an eyebrow. "Is this true?" he asked calmly. The manager hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "Well," she began, her voice shaky. "Mrs. Carter did bring some concerns to my attention, but we checked Mia's bag, and there was nothing in it." "Exactly," Olivia snapped, cutting her off. "But that doesn't mean she wasn't planning to take something. People like her are good at hiding things." The words hung in the air, sharp and cutting. The room fell into stunned silence. Customers exchanged uneasy glances, and the manager looked like she wanted to sink into the floor. Andrew's gaze shifted back to Olivia, his calm demeanor unchanged. "People like her," he repeated, his tone neutral but pointed. Olivia faltered slightly, realizing she had perhaps said too much. "You know what I mean," she stammered. "This store is for respectable clients, and she clearly doesn't fit the profile." She pointed at Mia, her fingers shaking slightly, as if her accusations would somehow solidify her position. Customers exchanged glances, their unease growing with every word Olivia spoke. Daniel didn't respond immediately. Instead, he stood silently, his gaze shifting between Olivia and Mia. His face was unreadable, and the weight of his silence was palpable, making Olivia falter slightly. But she pressed on. "I mean, someone needs to take responsibility," she added, her voice rising as if to convince herself as much as the crowd. And then, with calm authority, Daniel finally spoke. "This girl you're accusing," he said, his tone measured but sharp, "is my daughter." The room froze. It was as if time itself had stopped. The customers, the staff, even Olivia herself, all stood in stunned silence as the weight of Daniel's words sank in. Gasps rippled through the boutique, and whispers began to spread like wildfire. Olivia's expression crumbled in an instant, replaced by a look of pure shock and fear. Her mouth opened and closed as if she were trying to speak, but no words came out. Her usual confidence had vanished, leaving her exposed and vulnerable. Mia, standing tall beside her father, didn't say a word. She didn't need to. The truth had been spoken, and the power dynamics in the room had shifted entirely. Mia sighed, no longer able to find words, and held out her hands. Daniel stepped closer to Olivia, his commanding presence towering over her. His voice, though calm, carried the weight of every unspoken accusation. "You judged her without cause," he began, his words deliberate and cutting. "You harassed her, made false accusations, and humiliated her in front of everyone here, all because of your own prejudice."
Olivia blinked, taken aback.
"Excuse me," she said, her voice rising. Andrew took a slow, deliberate step closer to Olivia, his presence even more imposing. "You're absolutely right," he said coldly. "This store is for respectable clients, and you're not one of them." Olivia's face turned pale, her confidence crumbling in an instant. "Your daughter," she repeated weakly. Andrew nodded, his gaze never leaving hers. "That's right," he said, his tone unwavering. "And not only is she my daughter, but she has every right to be here, more than you, in fact." Olivia's face turned a deep shade of red as she stammered, "I didn't know." She didn't say who she was. Daniel's eyes narrowed, his tone unwavering. "She shouldn't have to," he said. "Everyone who walks into this store deserves respect, whether they're my daughter or not." Turning his attention to the store manager, Daniel's voice grew sharp. "And you," he said, his gaze cold, "you stood by and let this happen. Why didn't you stand up for her? Why didn't you question these baseless accusations?" The manager, clearly shaken, hung her head. I didn't know," she murmured, her voice barely audible. Andrew placed a comforting hand on the manager's shoulder, but Daniel wasn't so forgiving. "Not knowing isn't an excuse," he said firmly. "It's your responsibility to treat every customer with fairness and dignity. What happened here today is unacceptable, and it reflects poorly on this entire establishment." Desperate to recover, Olivia tried to defend herself. I was just trying to protect the store's reputation," she stammered, her voice faltering. "I didn't mean any harm." Daniel's expression remained cold and unmoving. "Protect the store's reputation," he repeated, his tone biting.
By targeting an innocent girl?
"By making baseless accusations and embarrassing yourself in the process." Olivia glanced around the room, hoping for some support, but found none. The other customers avoided her gaze, their disapproval clear in their expressions. Even the store staff seemed unwilling to come to her defense. I thought," Olivia began, But her voice trailed off as Daniel took another step forward, his tone growing sharper. "You thought wrong," he said. "And now you're going to face the consequences of your actions." The boutique erupted into murmurs as customers whispered among themselves. Some nodded in agreement with Daniel's words, while others simply watched in stunned silence. The store manager, clearly shaken, fumbled nervously with a clipboard. Olivia, on the other hand, seemed frozen in place, her usual arrogance replaced by a mix of humiliation and fear. She opened her mouth to speak, but Daniel raised a hand, silencing her. "I think we've heard enough from you," he said firmly. "It's time for you to leave." The room watched as Daniel turned to the bodyguard standing near the entrance. "Make sure she leaves," he instructed, his voice calm but final. The bodyguard nodded and stepped forward with a stern expression. Olivia, realizing there was no way to salvage the situation, took a step back. "I didn't mean any harm," she said weakly. Andrew's gaze didn't waver. "You're banned from this store, and every other boutique I own," he said, his voice cold. "You're no longer welcome here." Olivia's face turned red as the gravity of his words sank in. She glanced around the room, hoping for sympathy, but found none. Realizing there was no way out, she muttered something under her breath and turned toward the door.
Her heels clicked loudly against the marble floor, the sound echoing through the now silent boutique.
As she reached the exit, she glanced back one last time, only to see Daniel standing tall beside Mia, his protective presence unshakable. With a huff, Olivia pushed open the door and disappeared into the street. Her once dominant presence had been reduced to nothing more than a cautionary tale. The other customers watched in stunned silence, some nodding in agreement with Andrew's words. The manager, clearly embarrassed, stepped forward. "Mr. Roberts," she began, her voice apologetic. "I had no idea she was your daughter."
"If you had known."
Andrew raised a hand, stopping her. "It's not about who she is," he said. "It's about how you handled the situation. You listened to accusations without evidence and didn't stand up for her when she needed you." The manager, clearly shaken, hung her head. "I didn't know," she murmured, her voice barely audible. Andrew stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder comfortingly. "Not good enough," he said quietly. "This store represents my name, and I won't tolerate this kind of behavior again." Daniel then turned to Mia, his expression softening. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. Mia nodded, a small smile breaking through her composed exterior.
"I'm fine, Dad."
"Thank you." "I'm proud of you," Daniel said, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You handled yourself with dignity and grace. This is your store as much as it is mine, and no one has the right to make you feel otherwise." Mia's smile widened, her confidence shining through. Together, they walked toward the boutique's back office, leaving behind a room full of stunned onlookers and a lesson that no one would soon forget. But as they left the store together, Mia couldn't help but wonder how many more people like Olivia were out there, ready to judge without reason. She made a silent promise to herself. This wouldn't be the last time she stood up for what was right. Mia's strength and Daniel's unwavering support showed that dignity cannot be stripped away by the ignorance of others. This isn't just a tale of confrontation. It's a story of triumph, a story that reminds us of the importance of empathy, fairness, and standing up for what's right, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. Olivia's actions, rooted in her own biases, serve as a cautionary tale about the harm prejudice can cause, not only to those it targets but to the fabric of a community. And yet, Mia's grace under pressure and Daniel's decisive actions teach us that even in the darkest moments, there's room for change and redemption. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear how stories like Mia's resonate with you. Most importantly, subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales of resilience, justice, and courage.